A Magyar Divat és Design Ügynökség bemutatja a HFDA Academy New View podcast sorozatot. Előadások a divat- és dizájnipari vállalkozások szakmai támogatására.
Welcome to the Hungarian Fashion and Design Agency's video and podcast show. In today's changing economic environment, the HFDA Academy New View series is focusing on the challenges and solutions the industry is facing. Besides Hungarian industry experts, we also invited international professionals to take part in our ongoing series and discussions. We believe it is very important that as a coordinating center, HFDA supports the Hungarian creative sector with its international strategic relationships. Our guest speaker, Mr. Antonio Achille, is a senior partner and global head of luxury at McKinsey Company, which is a global management consulting firm that helps organizations across the private, public, and social sectors to transform their companies in the ways that matters most to them. This requires embedding digital analytics and design into core process and mindsets, building capacity that helps organizations and people to thrive in an ever-changing context, which could not be more relevant as it is now in the middle of global crisis situation. I would like to thank you, Mr. Antonio, for accepting our invitations and for sharing his thoughts on global changes that currently affect and shape the fashion and design industries in the future.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the very kind introduction, and I look forward to this conversation today.
I would like to start with the most important question about the corporate strategy. How do you think corporate strategy will change in light of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, in a sense, corporate strategy is the way in which an enterprise continues to be fitting with the outside ecosystem. So what happened with the COVID is that the pace of change has accelerated. So corporate strategy really recognized that. It's also clear that a company need to have a very granular understanding of what's happening. Think today about the lockdown, the geography where a company can operate almost in a normal environment, other where is a continuous lockdown, lockout. So it's very important to have a granular intelligence. And the other aspect that need to become very central to the corporate strategy of any company is clearly digital. Then there is a completely different chapter about corporate strategy that is about M&A. In our experience, any crisis, in the aftermath of any crisis, there is a space for further consolidation. So this should be put on the agenda of the CEO to explore whether there are opportunities across the value chain to vertically integrate or integrate downstream, or maybe to acquire another brand and create a group. So also M&A should become a chapter of the corporate strategy of a player that wants to emerge from the crisis stronger than it was.
Yes, we are an organization with great emphasis on preparing industry across for the forthcoming trends. And you mentioned the geographic. Will the geographical landscape go through a rearrange? What do you think about this?
No, so I think will be some fundamental still in place. So US is still central, and we see consumer responding very well. We see consumer returning to quite good level of confidence. Yesterday there was the new data published with 17% sales retail up in May versus April. So US will remain a pillar of the consumer economy and also perspective of the creative and luxury industry. The other geography, which is, I would say, a strong goal of the sector, is clearly China. China emerged as a first country after the cycle of the COVID. It was the first one entering in the COVID, and it's been now the first one emerging out of it. Already China was accounting for 50% of the total luxury growth. Mm-hmm. We expect this to continue. So I think that will stay. The trend we will see is a bit more blurring for Europe. Europe has always been the central hub for luxury. but a lot of demand was made by international travelers. We were discussing before that, with the complete halt to international traveling, this component of tourism is not contributing any longer to the sales of the European luxury stores. And that component account actually for 30% of the total market. So it's a very significant component.
Yeah, I read your article about this, that the most of the revenue are generated by travelers. So this is a really important part of the luxury business.
Yeah, we estimate 1/3, so 30% roughly. And again, the Asian travelers, he was clearly representing a lion's share of that component. Now we see that Asian consumer are, of course, not coming back to travel any soon. They're going to be traveling most within the region. So some of that demand that before was, resulting in European shopping will result into regional shopping, maybe in mainland or maybe in Macau. We all know that Hong Kong is still struggling. Maybe this is an opportunity for Macau to really step up as a shopping destination for luxury.
Mm-hmm. And what about the supply chain? Could Europe have a bigger share of the supply chain? So what do you think? What is the next steps for the business in Central European businesses?
I think that's a great question. I mean, if you talk about luxury, already Europe had a very dominant role. 60% of total production in personal luxury was actually coming from Italy, and then there was France and Germany having another important role. So even before the crisis, the Made in it represent an important part of the emotional value of a product. The crisis has actually now created further opportunity for what we call reshoring or nearshoring. So having a supply chain closer to the end demand, also because long supply chain demonstrated its fragility in this circumstance. Of course, for the more value segment, it still will be an important element because it offers cost competitive advantages, but still, it demonstrates that it is not as robust as one person could thought. The other element, we believe the supply chain will be really becoming digital immersed. So there will be increasingly digital prototyping, digital step of the supply chain that will be handled digitally, as opposite to the traditional way where either people or goods were moving from one step to the other step of the value chain.
So you say the digitalization will be the most important part of the businesses in the future, or a really important part of the businesses? Yeah.
I think that would be, again, if you look at COVID, it didn't really create a new trend. Maybe the only things has been a bit remote working. For the remaining has been trend that were existing, which accelerated and becoming more structural. And one of those is clearly digitalization, which is not only e-commerce. It's not only about digital marketing. It's also about the back of the house, how you can transform your company in a truly digital company to be more agile, more cost effective, and more responsive. So digital will be definitely a major topics for any player.
Normally, people say that luxury is together with experiences, physical experiences, but this time is everything changed. Could luxury and digital coexist? What do you think? Is the change of digital luxury experience necessary, or is there digital luxury experience?
Absolutely. I think digital and luxury can coexist, and this has been proved. And actually, it's really about coexisting, or what people call in the sector about omni-channel or multi-channel. So it's not black and white. Consumer don't think about a channel, thinks about a relationship with the brand. So it does not, just merely related with the brand online or merely related with the store. It wants to have a multi-channel approach, and the touch of the brand should be consistent across the different touch point. I think your question in another question, which is whether luxury brand can create a magic, touch in digital as they do in the store. Because in fact, if you compare the store experience of a luxury brand, it's typically much better on all the parameters than a retailer of other category like food or general merchandising. If you try to demonstrate the same online, it's not obvious because some of the generalist player, we call out Amazon, actually provide a very customized and personal and effective experience. And of course, they are not luxury player. So the question and the challenge is a bit out there, how luxury player can replicate some of that magic stardust, not only in their stores, but also in the online communication. And I personally believe that personalization will be a major topic. So the fact of connecting with you, knowing your preference, knowing you as an individual, not just you as an average segment, will be an important element of this journey for the brands.
And what about the physical stores? So in what ways can retailers use the capacity of space? Maybe there is some more capacity in the stores now.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something which has been accelerated. So we see that, especially for what we call large boxes, so like department stores, the productivity of the square meter is not where it used to be because simply people are scared to be in very crowded environment. And that again is a continuation of a trend because the department store or malls were already struggling before COVID. So that I think is something which will be worth a reflection because they used to play a very important role. They were also quite a demanding channel for the brand to satisfy. And that I'm not sure it will be the same relevance going forward. When it comes to own stores, to flagship, they will continue playing a role. It's an important element for creating the visibility and the presence and the brand awareness, especially in new market. The role is evolving, is becoming more experiential. It's less about just selling. It's about more creating a connection with the brand, with the consumer. So it will be more experience rather than just selling.
We talk now about the luxury segment, but in Hungary we have a lot of great emerging brands, and we would like them to gain international recognition. What tools can smaller brands make a name for themselves in this really hard time? What do you think about, and what is your tips for the emerging brands, maybe Hungarian emerging brands, but also other emerging brands?
Yeah, I think it's a great moment actually for a native digital brand or for an emerging brand, as long as it remains honest to itself and it captures some of the tailwinds of this discontinuity. For instance, we see consumer very much interested in sustainability, very much as we discuss, open to digital, somehow open also to brands which have a very strong value set, which not only produce great product, but are becoming a bit an ambassador of a value that take a position on something which goes beyond purely the product. And those are all opportunities that an emerging brand could try to leverage as long as they are consistent with their original DNA. Because again, something which was already happening and it continue happening even stronger is there is a lot of transparency. So you cannot claim to be somebody you are not for a long time in this digital transparent world.
I absolutely agree with you because crisis brings new trends, and it is important for industry across to be able to recognize them. If they can adapt this new situation in time, they also gain a competitive advantages. This is absolutely, I agree with you. What do you think? Do you have is it safe to say that this is a new way of thinking are certain, or do you have any other tips?
As I said, I don't believe there will be a completely new area, new way of thinking for consumer or new way of acting for brand. At the same time, I believe it's equally wrong to believe that everything will be exactly as it was before. So topics as we discussed before, so the fact of having a strong original DNA of a brand, the effect of digital, maybe some portfolio rationalization in the store, among stores, will be topics worth a reflection for the CEO of who want to start a brand in the next few years. But I believe the sector, and we see already in China, will come back to be as strong as it was before. Even in past crises, like in the one in 2008, the sector proved to be very, very resilient. So you can think about luxury to be something not necessary, something discretionary. At the end, it's something which is very emotionally important for consumer. So I tend to return very strongly, maybe in a different way, but to return very strongly after this kind of crisis.
This is really interesting what you mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing. Unfortunately, our discussion has come to the end, but I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and for sharing your thoughts. I wish you best luck and stay safe. And I hope maybe once we can meet in person too.
Likewise, thank you for this opportunity. I think you're doing a great service to the Hungarian fashion system. I appreciate the time to spend, the opportunity to spend some time with you. And thank you for your very insightful question. Really enjoy the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.